to recap Thursday Night Football. Next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Adam Azer, and a somber mood to these proceedings because, this was like the one Thursday night game that everyone was looking forward to. Ravens, Bengals, we got some star power, Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson, and well, we got Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson for about a quarter and a half because Joe Burrow left the game with a wrist injury. There was some, let's say, conspiracy theorizing that Joe Burrow had a wrist injury that had gone unreported based on a grainy video of him getting off a plane where he got hurt during the game. I can't say he wasn't hurt before.
He may have been. They showed it on the post-game show on Prime for what it's worth. And he may have re-aggravated it, but it's, this night really is, people get so frustrated with fantasy football because of nights like tonight. I don't blame them. Yeah,
Joe Burrow had 101 yards, 17 attempts, and a touchdown to Joe Mixon before the injury, but Jake Browning came in, and look, the way the Bengals approached Joe Burrow's earlier calf injury, where he was clearly less than 100%, at times seemed like he probably shouldn't have been out there, and yet they kept throwing him out there, suggested a lack of faith in Jake Browning. I'm going to go ahead and say Jake Browning's performance today confirmed a lack of faith in him. I would downgrade the entire Bengals offense if Jake Browning did have to start moving forward. What about you, Adam?
Oh, God, yeah. Huge downgrade. I mean, Jamar Chase, if you just look at the box score, he had a touchdown. Almost everything Jake Browning did was on the last drive of the game. Yeah. Baltimore was up big and took their foot off the gas, perhaps, or maybe he just had a really good drive. I thought Jake Browning looked fine, but he's not going to be a guy that's really going to push the ball downfield and going to light things up. He maybe could be steady. You know, you look at backup quarterbacks and they could come out and they could be horrible, and the next week and they can be competent. And, like I always say, I have a 2-round rule where if I were treating Jamar Chase like a 1st-round pick, now I treat him like a 3rd-round pick if Burrow were out. Higgins more like a 5th-round pick. So it's going to be bad. Mixon, I think, really suffers. If you just look at his fantasy points before the Burrow injury, he just wasn't scoring touchdowns. He scored one game. No, I'm sorry. Before Burrow got healthy, before the bye week when Burrow really got healthy, he scored 1 touchdown. Mixon scored in 3 of the last 4 games, I think, if not 4 in a row. So he's going to lose in this for sure. But again, I don't know that Burrow's even going to miss a game. I do know that
sprained wrist.
Going to miss time.
It was concerning that, during the game, he throws the touchdown to Mixon, immediately goes down in pain. He goes to the sideline. He couldn't even get the ball above his shoulder, basically, before he kind of crumbled in a heap. So it doesn't look great, but look, he's got the extra 3 days to get healthy before week 12. Hopefully that happens, and this ends up being a moot point. But, yeah, if Joe Burrow does have to miss time, I think Joe Mixon's in the Saquon Barkley range. I think he's probably a worse player, but I do think the Bengals offense would at least be a little more competent than the Giants. So I would expect something similar from those two guys. Low-end RB2s. You're hoping for some catches for Mixon like he got in this game. And then on the other side, unfortunately, the potentially more serious injury is Mark Andrews left. It was one of those hip drop tackles that I think they really do need to legislate out of the game, because Mark Andrews suffered what is believed to be a season-ending ankle injury early on in the game, nearly scored a touchdown on the play, but he's gone, and unfortunately, Isaiah Likely didn't have a catch in this game. He had 1 catch for 5 yards in the previous game Mark Andrews missed. When we saw Isaiah Likely break out in the preseason in 2022, we thought, this might be a plug-and-play guy if Mark Andrews misses time, but clearly, with the other wide receivers that the Ravens have, that's not the role that Isaiah Likely is going to fill. So which tight ends would you be looking at on waivers to replace Mark Andrews? I guess if there is one benefit to this game being on Thursday, it does give you a couple of extra days to potentially make those ads before Sunday's games.
Yeah, unfortunately, all of the good tight ends have been gobbled up, but you could take a look maybe at Pat Freiermuth.
That would be the one that I would look at first, yeah.
Logan Thomas is 77% rostered. Darren Waller is 57% rostered. I don't know if he's coming back, but he could be back at some point. Tyler Conklin has been pretty involved from a PPR standpoint. I don't really see any diamonds in the rough out there. I don't see anyone. I mean, I don't know what Greg Dulcich's status is, but that feels like a long shot anyway.
Yeah.
In fact, I would even maybe consider gambling on Isaiah Likely if you.
Yeah.
I know it's not a big endorsement. I'm sorry,
but he did have I think it was an 8-catch, 103-yard game in Week 18 last year. So
right.
He has shown some upside when Andrews has been out. It's just it's not going to be like, okay, Andrews is out, we just replace him with Likely. That's not how this offense is operated. I would say Freiermuth is the guy, 47% rostered. He's expected to come back from IR. I'm not going to say it's going to go exactly like Dalton Kincaid and Trey McBride because those guys have more clear opportunities, and honestly, I think Arizona just has a better offense than Pittsburgh now. But talented young player who has an opportunity in an offense that does need some playmaking. That's the idea with Pat Freiermuth. But there's no good replacement for Mark Andrews, unfortunately.
No, I just want to say one thing before we go. I'm sorry, but Odell Beckham looks pretty good. He hurt his shoulder, but he did the post-game interview on Prime, and apparently the shoulder's not that serious. He had the 40-yard touchdown last week where he took a slant to the house, which is vintage Beckham. He looks better. He got behind a defensive back in this game. And anyway, I'll stop rambling. He is a big-time waiver wire priority for me, and I think he can help Lamar Jackson, who's been pretty bad without Mark Andrews. I think it's a different situation this time. I actually think, Jackson can survive. He'll have his ups and downs, but he's better equipped this time around.
Worth mentioning, Jackson did briefly leave this game with an ankle injury. He played through it, rushed for 54 yards on 9 carries. There were some times where it seemed to be limiting him, but overall he played okay. Before we go, I do want to talk about Keaton Mitchell, who he was ranked, close to the top 30 for Dave, Jamie, and Heath this week. Only 8 carries for 33 yards. He did play roughly even snaps with Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. I haven't seen the final number, but he was out there quite a bit. I think maybe it was premature to view him as a starting option, but still optimistic about him moving forward.
Keaton Mitchell, not really. I mean, I think he's a must roster player. I think he has a chance to take over a little bit, but Gus Edwards has been so damn good near the goal line, and Mitchell doesn't catch any passes. So I'm not that optimistic, but I do think I could see myself being wrong that he could have a second half surge that you have to roster Keaton Mitchell. I wouldn't drop him, but if he's a sit until further notice.
All right, that's going to do it for FFT and 5. We'll see you tomorrow.